Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another episode here on the Husband Coach's Corner. Today, we're going to be talking about a soundbite that I've been hearing all over social media. I think it's one of the pastors, TD Jakes, but not 100% sure. Moral of the story, this soundbite is bad advice, and I don't think that it is beneficial to any man who's trying to be present and supportive of his family. So stay tuned and we'll dive into it. Welcome to the Husband's Coach's Corner, the podcast that teaches husbands how to love their wife every day and become better men in the process. I'm your host, Chris Scott, aka the Husband Coach. You've already heard the introduction. If you're new here, my name's Chris. I produce content centered around helping husbands learn how to love their wives every day. If that's something you're interested in, whatever platform you're on, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, follow, share, whatever you can do. You can also check the description box or the show notes, and there's going to be links to various things like my website, my email list. So if you want to get in contact, there's many of ways to do so. You can see my email address as well. And I do respond. So please, if you have a question or you just want to voice a concern, go ahead and send me an email or drop me a comment on a YouTube video, whatever, and I will get back to you. Now, let's go ahead and dive into the comment that was being referenced. So I don't have the sound clip and I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it, but I'm sure you can go on to Instagram or TikTok and all these other social media platforms, probably even Facebook. And essentially what the soundbite is saying is that a man who is always at home is a bad thing because their responsibility is to be out being the breadwinner, making money. So either you have money now and you don't have your husband, or you have your husband and you don't have money. Now, anyone who can really rationalize this, I think will figure out that that just doesn't make sense. All right. I don't talk about my job very much, but I am an active duty military member in the United States military. I have served for 15 years. My wife and I have been married for 14 of those years. If there is anyone who can relate to being gone and not being present, I think I would qualify for that. All right. That's the only reason why I'm sharing that. Not because I'm looking for any gratitude for my service or anything like that. I'm sharing that to drive home the point that this is poor mentorship and advice. All right. Because over those 15 years that I've been in the military and the 14 years of marriage that my wife and I have had, I have been gone for maybe 7 of those years. Right. How do you build a marriage through constantly being gone? I've offered up a lot of advice on how to do this. The main thing is finding out ways that you and your wife can communicate and that your wife feels loved. This is the whole reason why you have to find ways to love your wife every single day. When you miss the mark on finding a way to love your wife every day, you missed an opportunity to grow your relationship in a way that's meaningful. And when you do that, when you're gone from the home, then your wife will probably be giving you these hard times of, oh, you're never here. You're never present. The kids need their father, and you're running into all these issues. See, the problem isn't that the fathers or the husbands aren't home because they're out working. It's that they're not maximizing the opportunities that they have available to them when they're not working. Now, I get it. Not everyone has a career, right? Not everyone has a salary. So there's multiple jobs that the parents have to do, right? And I fully understand that. All right. My father worked multiple jobs, but even he was present and he came to my basketball games. He came to my tennis matches. He came to my performances when I was in band, even though he still had these jobs. Now, he ended up having to go to work after most of those or leaving halfway through those events. And he explained that to me. You see, the problem is men are not in the, we don't like to explain ourselves, right? It's a prideful thing. When we take the time to actually explain, hey, this is why this is happening the way that it's happening, and then you develop a plan around that, man, you'll be surprised at how much you can benefit from just having a genuine conversation and then developing a plan that fits for your family's needs. Because I don't know what spurred the, again, I think this is TD Jakes. I don't know. If you know, drop it in the comment section below. If you know what soundbite I'm talking about. But I don't know what drove this conversation, right? Because it was just a segment of a larger audio piece, probably one of his sermons. If it was TD Jakes or one of the, it was a snippet of a longer message. And I don't know what drove it, but I'll throw out some ideas of what could have driven it. And it could have just been that men are constantly being nagged by their wife that they're never home or they're not present. The irony is I had a conversation similar to this with my wife last night at the time of recording this. And we were talking about how I interact with our children, and sometimes that is considered nagging our children. And the way I see it is I'm holding them accountable to a standard that's already set. Our kids should not be surprised if I come to them and I say, hey, you didn't do something. Then they say, oh, I didn't do something. And then when I tell them again that they didn't do something, that's not me nagging. That's me holding them accountable to a standard. Now, my wife and I have a difference of opinion on this particular nomenclature and approach, but nonetheless, it is still me trying to hold my kids accountable. Present, nagging. The nag that men may receive from their wives is when you're home, all you do is play Xbox. So then it's like you're not there. And this is why I'm saying it's important to maximize your opportunities that you have. Watch a movie with your family. Take them on a walk. Believe it or not, you don't have to put in a whole lot, right? You just have to put in something that is recognized. And if it's not recognized, then you didn't put in enough effort. That is really what's coming down to why I think this particular message was shared, or at least this segment of the message was shared. Now, the reason I bring it up today is because it seems to be going fairly viral. I've seen, I get on Instagram and I think I've seen nothing short of 7 videos this morning in the Reels where that was the soundbite, and they're showing like pictures of their family and, essentially trying to justify I'm out here grinding. And man, you're missing the point. All right. Because they're taking that little soundbite. Most of these people and these men that are using this soundbite, they're taking that and they're really distorting it. Because I promise you, I don't think that was the message overall, but because that's the piece that was cut out, that becomes the narrative. So everyone starts to live by it. So let me give you 2 pieces of advice. First, that's terrible way of looking at, or that is a terrible way of looking at your marriage and your work life. You have to find the balance between the two, and you have to maximize your opportunities when you are at the house. You must maximize your opportunities when you're at the house. And then the second piece of advice that I would give you is before you start to make these mantras out of little sound bites, right? Before you take a sound bite and you're like, yeah, I'm going to rally behind that, and go find the rest of the recording so you can get it in context. And truthfully, that should be in anything, right? I'm not one for political statements. It's not my deal. But if you look at the news today, a lot of it is soundbite, opinionated data, and it's really just to spur people on. But when you go and read, or you get the full story, it's like, well, that was only one segment of the story. The whole picture said this. And unfortunately, we're allowing ourselves to be manipulated by these sound bites and driven to do something like these videos on Instagram. Now, I'm not shaming any of these men that are doing it, right? Because if this is their belief system that I have to be gone, then I have to be gone. And every relationship is different. But what I will give you is a piece of, advice to heed the warning, right? If your wife is telling you you're gone too much, one day she'll be gone, right? And even if she is physically there, she may be emotionally withdrawn. Now, it is a really, really dangerous place for a husband to be in a home with a wife who's not emotionally connected or invested in him. All right. Just go and talk to your wife about her emotions and how she feels about you. When those go away, you lose credibility in her eyes. And don't be so naive to think that because she loves you, she's going to stay through all of the hard times and you not put in any effort or work to improve the relationship when she brings problems to your attention. I've had former episodes that talked about when your wife brings something up, it needs to be addressed, because when it's not addressed, then it becomes this passive aggressive approach to things later on down the line. And the more passive aggressive your wife becomes, the less emotionally invested she becomes in you and your relationship, thus leading you to a divorce, an affair on her end, maybe an affair on your end. There's so many negative things. And, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news on this, but genuinely, nothing good comes from not addressing the concerns that your wife is bringing to you. So address them with genuine concern, and don't undermine them. You don't have to agree. Like my wife and I, we don't agree on my approach. She brought the concern to me last night. She doesn't agree on my approach with the kids, and I didn't undermine her and say, oh, well, that's silly. That's not what I'm doing. I heard what she had to say. I said, okay, yeah, you're calling it nagging, and I don't agree with that, right? So I'm not undermining. I'm just letting her know where my stance is. And then from there, we discussed to redefine, and we left the conversation not fully resolved, I'll be honest. However, we weren't upset with one another. We know where each other stands, and there's some things that each of us can work on, and then we'll revisit the topic at a later date. This is how you should be dealing with things in your marriage, the conflicts in your marriage. As the man, you have to lead these types of conversations, no matter how uncomfortable they may be. And you have to be the glue and the voice of reason. This isn't me, shaming women that they can't be the voice of reason, because most of the time they are the voice of reason, which is the reason we have to have the conversation, right? They reel us in, but they are also often fully emotional, because this is how women communicate. They communicate with their emotions in many cases. There are definitely the exceptions out there, but generally speaking, women communicate with their emotions. So you're going to get an emotional wife whenever a circumstance or a situation comes up and you're having that conversation. So just be aware of that. Now, I know I kind of spurred off from the soundbite So I'm going to cut the podcast here, cut the episode here. The advice that I would give to men, if you feel that you have to rally behind this mantra, is first take a look at what opportunities you're missing internal to the home already. Because you still come home at night. Now, if for whatever reason you are maximizing those opportunities and you're still having this conversation with your wife and the challenge of, I don't come home, or I spend too much of my time away from the house. And if you're spending time away from the house doing things that isn't related to work, find ways of incorporating your family into it. So maybe it's, I go to the gym. Well, can you take your family to a park and work out outdoors with your family? And, you'll probably say, oh, well, my family doesn't want to work out. Well, maybe you just take your family to the park, let your kids play on the playground, you work out, and maybe your wife can hang out with you and talk to you while you're working out. If that doesn't bother you too much, I don't know. That could be a conflict there. But hopefully you're getting the point that you can come up with solutions to this problem so you can move forward and not necessarily just rely on, oh, well, if I have to go to work and I shouldn't be home all day, then you should be satisfied with the little bits of time that I get. And I'll be the first to tell you, on behalf of your wife, that is not enough. All right. And then the second thing that I would offer up to you in this regard is, if you are working multiple jobs and you're not at home at all because you're from one job to the next job to the next job, there's an episode of What is Your Legacy? What is your legacy? And in that episode, I talk about what is it that you're going to leave behind for your children to mimic. And I understand having to put food on the table, right? I will never shame a man who is putting in all the effort that he can to take care of his family. That is a noble concept. However, you're also a mentor to your children. And if you're not there, who's mentoring them? The school system has an agenda, and they'll mentor your kids in a heartbeat. I don't recommend that. The school system, that is not a good place of getting our kids mentored. Terrible place to get our kids mentored. It is, I will leave it at that. But you as the father, your wife as the mother, is the place where your children should be nurtured and mentored. And when you're not there to do that, to give them that leadership and that guidance, they're going to get it from any other source: TV, social media, the school, their friends' parents. I mean, the list goes on and on. And so what is the legacy that you want to leave behind? You should go check out that episode if that's something that you're interested in. And, I'll leave you guys with a quote that I heard. I don't know who this quote came from, but I heard it, I think a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I don't know. And the quote went like this: tough times make strong men. Strong men make easy times. Easy times make weak men. Weak men make tough times. You see, there's a vicious cycle, and that ties in so well with the legacy. At some point, the generations to come will have it so easy that they cause tough times for the next generation, which is then going to force them to be strong. Now, that ties in so much with how hard you have to work right now because you're trying to make it easier for your children. But see, with you not being there, if this is something where you're genuinely not there, what mentorship is your children getting that will lead them into this cycle of becoming weak because they got their mentorship from someone who was not credible, and it led them to believe some stuff that's not true. And now you have children that are weak. Like, there's no better way of saying it. If you're not present and, there's not a strong role model that's a male in their lives, weak kids are birthed from that. And, that's not me digging on any of the single moms out there. I'm a firm believer that children need both parents, a mother and a father. When the father is not present due to death or just gone, they need a male role model. When the mother isn't present due to death or work, they need a female role model. Like, it's important to have that balance. And I don't know how many studies are made on this, but my own personal observations in my family and my friends' family, when I seen how all of my friends who didn't have fathers in their lives, how they turned out, it was a one-story note. They didn't have, very few of them actually succeeded and got out of the neighborhood that we grew up in. But all of my friends that I grew up with playing basketball and football and stuff like that had parents that were present in their lives, all of them went on to do better things. So all I'm saying is, in my own personal observation, it takes two parents. But it doesn't just take two parents, it takes two present parents. Now, if all you have is a wife and no kids, then it's going to take you to be a present husband. And that doesn't mean just being in the house. Like, that means engaging with your wife and filling her love tank by using one of the methods that she receives love through love language, or whichever love language she has. So I know I kept saying that I'm going to cut it. So I am here. So hopefully you guys found this episode helpful. If you did, share it with a friend, comment, like, subscribe, do whatever interactions, the social platform that you're listening to this on. And, make sure that we get this into the hands of someone who really needs to hear it. And then if you haven't already, consider hitting that subscribe button here on YouTube, at least. I do create content on a fairly regular basis. Had some health issues I was taking care of, which led to me not producing as much. But I am recovering and going to get back into producing. So if you have questions, something that you want to see me answer or hear me answer, please send me an email, or you can leave it as a comment on the YouTube video, and I will be more than happy to do so. So until next time, I want you guys to find a way to love your wife every day. Peace.